All right, everyone. Last looks. Quiet on set. Roll sound. Sound speed. Roll camera. Camera speed. Scene 1, take 1. Market. And action. Hi, I'm Ed, the host of Savannah on Film, and we explore the economic and cultural impact and values of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry in related fields. You can find us here on WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. Hello, Savannah. Hello, the world. Welcome to another exciting episode of Savannah on Film. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich. And you already heard our purpose, the reason why we're here, to talk to interesting folk in the film and television industry here in Savannah. We're on Savannah's #1 radio station, voted in the latest Connect Savannah poll, #1 radio station and #1 talk radio. Thank you to the fans. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're here on WRUU 107.5 FM LP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with a global soul. And we're also on Twitter, WRUU at WRUU 1075. So check that out if you will. The gentleman we have today here on the show, I'm glad to have, is he has many accomplishments, and too many that we're going to be able to cover in this one episode here of Savannah on Film. And just so you know, if you this will later be seen on YouTube, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and see the video portion of this. This will also exist in podcast form, and of course you're going to hear it on the radio. We're on Saturday nights, 7 to 8 p.m. on WRUU 107.5 FM in Savannah and on WRUU.org. So let me tell you about my guest. My guest today is Matthew Krueger. First off, welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thank you, Ed. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for taking a bet and being here. No, I appreciate you being here today. And let's a quick little background about you. Matthew is the owner and photographer at Matthew Krueger Photography. He is also the film and media coordinator at for City of Savannah, correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. He's an independent filmmaker. He was a former administrative office assistant at the Savannah Regional Film Commission, and he's a former creative advisor at SCAD, a little known college here in Savannah. Ever heard of it? Nah. So he's done a lot of things, and so that's that. He has worked as an actor. He's worked in art department, transpo, camera, electric. What haven't you done?
Honestly, at this point, I've unloaded so many semis for wardrobe. I mean, I've gotten concrete mixers and filled it full of rocks for wardrobe. You've done so many interesting things that I think I've just about been part of or touched every department at this point. So it's just a matter of, what level of expertise I have and if it fits the production's needs.
So what made you get the bug for working in film?
Just to go back to the beginning, my baby brother, I named him after a TV show. When I was 7, 8 years old, if you remember the mid 80s,
Mhm.
Michael Lang had a TV show called Highway to Heaven.
Oh yeah, totally.
You're
Watched it.
7, I was 6, 7, 8 years old, but it was the heavier themes. Like it was like the family version of, someone's dying, or the family version of, someone's got cancer in the family. And so just between you and me and all the listeners, every time I would watch it, I would cry. And so, I say that to sound very tough and very cool, but it was one of those shows that just made me start to understand that, that life isn't all fairy tales and comic books. And so from there, there's the earthbound sidekick of the Michael Landon character. His name is Mark Gordon, played by the actor Victor French. Very
Oh yeah.
spirited. And my dad was going to go with a family name, Uhlenbrock. Kid would have been broccoli at best. And so mom sided with me, and I named my baby brother after a TV show named Mark Gordon Krueger. So that's when I really knew that TV and film was definitely part of my ether and part of my vibe. Um, I pretty much was done with my college, or I'm sorry, my middle school, about sixth, seventh grade. I remember going to my guidance counselor and saying, "Call my mom, I'm ready to leave. Like this place is a prison, not an educational institute. I'm out." And so they called my mom, and I got like a week out of school, so it was pretty cool. But at that point on, my interaction with local community theater, and then that turned into regional theater. I can remember being on stage with a bunch of adults. There was a director in Beaufort named John Sharp. He's from LA. He did a lot of, I think he was DGA out there. He did a lot of big, cool things. And so it was like my first little piece of real serious training. It was about 30 years ago. I'm up there screaming, kind of doing this emotional recall and stuff. And, a bunch of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s. And, there's 12-year-old me just going off about things I knew about that point in life that, I was upset or had feelings or emotion about, all that was
At
limited.
9 o'clock. These terrible things that you have to deal with.
Thank you, mom and dad, for paying for my acting classes. I'm so angry.
Yeah.
And so then that kind of continued to morph, and I'd start to pick up like little regional parts, and I'd start to get paid a little bit. And so instead of having a senior year, so I was hungry for theater work. I mean, I was already doing it. So by the time I was 17, I got my first feature film job as an extra on a very not well-known Sharon Stone movie called The Last Dance. And
Oh,
so that I remember walking into this huge unopened supermax prison in Ridgeland, and I can remember walking in. It was all set up, super prison, if you will, supermax. I can remember when they closed the doors and you turned around and you just saw these 50-foot high walls and razor wire. It was very easy to get into character. So the bug was bitten then, and then I was able to connect as a kind of post PA for G.I. Jane in 1996. Again, as a 17-year-old, I still don't think I.
with Demi Moore in it.
Yep, yep. And
I saw that.
I'll tell you how green I was. Directed by, I think, Ridley Scott, but all I saw was Demi.
Little known director, right?
I was 17 and my vision was not so good. So anyhow, we live and we learn. And then from there, instead of having a senior year of high school, I did an international musical organization called Up with People. And so I got to do like a show for the Pope on the steps of the Vatican. And I promoted a show in Holland. And I traveled the world with young people from 20 different countries. Went to like 10 different countries doing a show in that country's language. And so I was at this
How old were you then?
17 and 18.
Okay.
I left the country.
Fantastic time. And the parents were cool with that,
Probably
right?
good for all parties. But it was the experience I needed. I think I'd been, very small-minded about so much. And so all of a sudden now you're like watching Schindler's List with the grandparents of, the kids from Poland and the kids from Germany. And, it's this incredibly moving moment when you start to just see this, large group of adults, 17 to 26, 17 to 30, all just openly crying or something like that. So it was a very unique experience that was a massive injection of humanity at a point in my life when I really, really needed it. So got done with Up with People, was trying to figure out, what was my next step after that. And I remember I started out at Brevard College of Art and Music in North Carolina for a semester. And in that summer of '98, Forces of Nature was doing a large casting call between Beaufort and Savannah for Forces of Nature with Ben Affleck, Sandra Bullock, and all that. So I was this huge, fluffy-haired, bright-eyed, very optimistic, very loud, probably 19-year-old at this point in time, and I got a little featured extra part. And so I shot for about 20 days with Forces of Nature. And that was the gotcha moment. After being, featured extra
You're
on
like,
it.
I have to do this. I have to pursue this.
Oh, and I'm all. If you watch the movie, I'm in 10 minutes of the movie. So, but you might not recognize me. I'm in this Brooks Brothers pinstripe suit. I'm about as tall as Ben Affleck, so that was part of the casting. As he and I look normal, I can remember seeing he and Sandy in shots together, and the grips would build almost like a plank, and it would be a 30-foot plank just so she could walk next to him and keep them in the frame. Otherwise, he's with shoes on. He's around 6'6", and she's about 5'1".
She had those Tom Cruise shoes or whatever it lifts.
And so after Forces of Nature, I mean, I was hooked. So I got on this set, and three of the even, slightly more featured actors were all SCAD students.
Okay.
And so up until that point in time, I thought SCAD was a couch design and architecture school, which meant very little to me because, I'm an actor, hear me roar. Uh, so I got on set, met those guys, and so SCAD was about to open up its media and performing arts department. So I was actually the first person to contact the school and say, hey, I want to join your about to be department. And so I was the first person. They kind of like, we don't know how we're going to do our interviews or our auditions yet. Just come and audition for this person and audition for this person. And ended up being Jeff DeVincent and Danny Filson. And I think they're like, do you know any musical numbers? And I sing them Otis Redding. So I don't think it was quite the show tunes that they were hoping for. But in hindsight, I was being very honest to me. Got into SCAD, and then obviously the wealth of both opportunities and training that I was exposed to exploded.
Wow. That was a a long answer to a good question. That was like, okay, that's the show. No.
Peace, everybody.
No. Wow, that's so a pretty amazing journey. It's kind of like it sounds in a way like a typical or maybe atypical, I don't know exactly, journey, because I know everybody has that aha moment when you're actually on set and you kind of look around and you're like, wow, do I belong here? How did I get here? And how do I stay here? That's the key to keeping it going. What advice do you give to people that are coming up in the industry?
It's twofold advice, and it's something I wish 20-year-old me would have listened to. So if you can hear me, it would be mentorship. But that works in two directions. You need a mentor, and you need to mentor someone. And I think there's value in being in both of those positions, and I think that is lost. I think I had a colleague, the person I worked for at SCAD when I was a career advisor there at SCAD Savannah, and her name was Pat Helbig. And literally, the work that she did with me, just being on her team in a year, it was the most intense work and the most intense and best version of me. There's some people who can be at a job for 5 years and accomplish what someone in a year or two could do. So for me, the amount of time you've done something isn't very indicative of where you're at in the process. It's a matter of how hard you've worked and what intensity. But the mentorship is everything. And I've been speaking to my dad recently as he's going through, some changes in his career and that kind of stuff, getting to retirement. But I've realized he's always kept young mentors. And then we started to have discussions about that because it keeps you grounded in what's really going on today. So whether we're talking about just understanding, if you're looking to start your career, your young mentors might really be connected to the local film scene. And if you're looking to have a more mature mentor, they may be able to give you the scope of how to survive your best self to get to the best position to really be ready. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Oh, I 110% agree with you. I am big on mentorship and being not just a mentor but the mentee, because I think there's not enough of that. There, even in Savannah, and it's the industry itself is built as every person is on their own kind of thing, and it does, as they say, take a village to create a film, and it does. But so many people are out to secure their position, and they forget to be humble, to give back, to help the next person who's trying to come up that ladder. And I've been mostly had really good mentors. I had one situation, a mentor that kind of let me down, and but you just move on from that and you learn. And then during the same time, I've been able to mentor other people, bring them on, kind of show them what I know, because I kind of feel like if you have all this knowledge, especially once you've gained it, it's almost a crime to waste it, to not share some of that, and even just a little bit. People don't realize just a little bit of time given to someone else can make an invaluable difference and really transform their future career, that they're in or going into. And we don't have enough mentorship. We have the teacher student, and that's great. We have the usually it's an older person or someone who's already traveled that road. But once you're traveling that road, you can also, like you said, be the mentee and not just the mentor. You can be both simultaneously, and some people lose sight of that. I think they lose a little humbleness along the way. They kind of and sometimes life will kick you in the side of the head, and and remind you of that. And then sometimes we live and we learn. But it's
One of my
it's a very
one of my
important point.
favorite one of my favorite quotes to speak to that is, "Always keep moving forward, but always give back."
I love that. That's fantastic. That's true. That's so true.
And not everyone is wired for that. So I think, there's been I taught high school TV production. I've worked for SCAD. Once I graduated my second degree from SCAD, uh, I can really say I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's so important because we're putting all these new professionals out into the workforce, and any bit of help can help them. And then sometimes the way technology is going, things are, if you've been in the business, let's say 20 years or even 10 years, the technology you're using might not be the cutting edge. It might not be. You have to always be learning and training yourself, or finding someone who's farther up, up the chain or down the road, or whatever the analogy is, to find, to help you fine tune things. And so it's very, very important.
Speaking to mentorship, one more note on that. One of the best experiences I had as a young filmmaker was I worked for The Legend of Bagger Vance for about 3.5, 4 months.
That's a great film.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And up until this point, I was getting all this work and doing all these things. In my mind, I had made it, but I connected well with the crew at a very strong production level. So after a while, they started to trust me to take care of Robert Redford, Bob, if you would. And so once he and we had a walk on the beaches of Kiowa, and I was in my early years at SCAD, so I'm studying survey of Western art history, like, all this really like, artistic, creative type stuff. And I don't know how many people know it, but Robert Redford was a painter. In the early 60s, he was traveling through Europe just painting. He wasn't acting, and that's what he did. So when I started to talk to him about French Impressionism and that kind of stuff, I mean, he all of a sudden turned into this excited person because, we're there and this, on the beaches of Kiowa, we're doing these incredible shots now with all these multi-Oscar winners. It's all of this stuff, but all of a sudden he just wanted to talk to me about painting on the beach and go hit golf balls. And it was, such an exciting thing, but just to hear his take on beauty and vision, the time that he gave me has been one of the most inspiring things of how I try to approach future mentees. For him to be as busy as an important and as, just, changing the structure of modern filmmaking, and for him to make me feel like I mattered, that is an ethos that I've carried with me for a long time.
I've been on a set where I saw an actor throw a tantrum because the shot wasn't the way that actor thought it should go. And things kind of, it got silent, and then things kind of calmed down, and everything worked out fine. But when because some actors are really into it, they're really, don't disturb me, and you're never supposed to really disturb the talent, especially working in the sound department. You keep your head down. You're as invisible as anything else. That's what you're supposed to be, and that's fine. But when you have those quick interactions and all, it's nice to see actors that are. I know Ben Affleck, I think, was very approachable. Like Chris Evans, Gifted, which you worked on Gifted, correct?
I did some PA work on that. Literally, I think I switched out the Baywatch office. I was in the same office, and the next day I went to work for the next movie in the same office. So
Yeah.
it worked out really well for me.
Yeah, yeah. Like Chris Evans just is a very kind person. He's really genuine. That it's not just an act. It's not just this is what I am in front of the camera. And when it's nice to have those moments, when you can see the human behind the actor or something like that, or even it doesn't even have to be an actor, but someone in their positions, and when they're kind of relaxed and in between takes, I guess, and all that. So, what was the craziest, most unusual shoot that you've been on for film, TV?
Well, I mean, you can imagine quarter century in, I worked on the Sarah Jones piece, so that was
Oh
incredible.
yeah.
Um, you know, I've blown up a lot of things. I've handled explosives. I've had to take pyro test in the morning in order to shoot a scene in the afternoon, memorize the order of the explosions to make sure I was in the right place at the right time and not the wrong place at the
Extremely important.
I studied for that test, trust me. So it's I think one of the biggest attractions to filmmaking is you're never in the same place twice. You're never doing the same thing twice. You never Life doesn't feel repetitive.
Mhm.
Yeah, you get up and you're tired every day, but that's the only repetitive part. But you're on a new canvas, you're with a new crew. You're doing different stuff. So I've had so many experiences. Just between as getting different appendages, ripped off, blown up, war movies, just you do a lot of different things that it's just hard to put your finger on, blowing up a casino boat in the Savannah River, whatever your big thing is that you've done, like it's all over the place.
What is something that you what's the thing you love the most about like the film industry?
I love being able to take collected dreams and with enough sweat and blood, being able to make an end product. And so I think just the fact that you're literally taking somebody's words, somebody's vision,
Mhm.
and a year or two later, you're able to change someone's mind with what a group of two people came up with, then a group of 150 people made, then a group of 30 people finished. Then all of a sudden, it's going through all these different arcs of creation. But at the end, you get to something maybe a little different than when you started, but you get to something at the end that still has this kick or this punch. I think it's fascinating being able to like infect people's minds forever.
Wow. I like to infect their minds in a good way.
Oh, I can't help
Definitely. Yeah.
like recently I've connected watching a new TV series called Ted Lasso, and
Oh, gosh. I hear a lot of good things, but I have not seen it.
it's the most positive and upbeat thing, and just not knowing where your COVID, post COVID, 2021 mind is. For me to be able to watch a new series, and when I turn it off, I feel like I went somewhere. I feel like I experienced something.
You were transported to
I
somewhere
saw
else.
a piece of humanity that gave me hope. And I think now, we're talking about in terms of 2021, I think I focus watching more things that give me hope or encouragement or purpose than ever before. And maybe that's where I'm at in my development. And maybe it's my response to the last few years. But I think just, zeroing in on the things that really matter to you.
I think personally 2020 was important for everyone that we go through that, and with things kicking up with the Delta variant, unfortunately, I where I thought we'd be and where we actually are two different places. As of the time of this interview, industry wise, I'm a big Tom Cruise fan, and Top Gun Maverick and Mission Impossible 7 have been pushed to 2022.
I did not know about Top Gun yet. Now I'm depressed. I've been waiting for
Yeah.
that last year.
Oh my god, I was so stoked when I saw the trailers, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And they had a behind the scenes trailer that I got to see at some point when it was supposed to come out before, and I got to see it's like a 15 or 20-minute making of, and they've done some incredible camera work that's not been
Yeah.
done.
No, I
And
think I'm going to watch the same thing. I'm definitely a fanboy for it. So thanks for crushing my dreams, Ed.
well, uh, let's keep going with it because 007, I've been waiting almost 2 years for that. It was originally going to come out around my birthday, and now it's still in October, November ish, but question marks because we can't get a hold of this pandemic thing, and it's pushing a lot of stuff, and people aren't going back to the theaters like we need them to. And the whole
That's
dynamic of
one of my
streaming.
biggest,
Yeah.
concerns looking at it from a theater standpoint. I'm just hoping, whenever this COVID, part of our existence is over, that, we still have a theater system, because I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to tread water at 10, 20%. Few businesses are designed to be able to accommodate that for years.
Right, right. And already prices are jacked up, and that's, we knew that was going to happen. And to an extent people will take that a little bit, but we're already complaining about how expensive it is to go to the theater. You can pay the mortgage or you can go see a movie, and you got to find a way to do both. But but yeah, I worry for the future of cinema. I don't think it'll go away, but it can't keep taking hits like this, and people have got to feel safe. And I know the local theaters, at least here, I yeah, we have like one chain here, basically one or two actually. Um, and every time I go, when I've been lucky enough to go, I'm trying to social distance, of course. I'm masked up. I'm, using the hand sanitizing wipes, everything. I'm doing all I can, um, because I want to support the films. I could live in a theater. I don't know about you, but I could live in a movie theater.
That was my first job, was a movie usher, and when I
Oh
was
gosh, that must have been a fantastic. That probably, it's not the highest paying job in the world, but you get to see so many films, and it's like,
I
uh,
mean, back in, I don't even want to admit the year, but it was pre 95. I can remember getting in, on what, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, you'd get in these huge, huge metal canisters, and it was just reels and reels of movies. So you and your friends, you'd be up there, the projectionist booth, just cutting the movies together, splicing, real, just kind of getting them all lined up. And then at midnight or 1 a.m., you'd have a huge party for whatever the summer blockbuster was. You'd have to watch the movie, make sure it worked. And
right.
then you'd have 10 or 12 of your best, buds there, and you're having a great time. And it's hard not to love that.
Yeah.
It was campy and it was gorgeous.
If you're watching the video portion of this on YouTube, Savannah on Film, you'll see my background. I'm a big Star Wars fan, among other genres, and there's nothing like an opening night crowd, or a Marvel film or whatever. That
Yes,
big
hearing
blockbuster.
people respond to the work is something you'll never really experience at home. Hearing somebody who's having a whole other emotional ride, while you're taking another ride in the same place, they're laughing, you're feeling them. It's the sad scene from Titanic. Everybody's crying. It's a unique thing to explain, and I hope it's there for my imaginary future children.
I miss I miss the times when you would get that very first showing. It might be a Thursday showing for a Friday opening, or a midnight opening on a Friday of something big, like let's say Star Wars or a Transformers film or whatever it was. And you would have people dressed up as characters, out of that universe, and they just all be interacting, and it's the energy. It's like seeing Avengers Endgame, and when Captain America, gets Mjolnir, and says Avengers assemble finally, everybody's like, oh my gosh, just that,
Yes.
or it, there's so many things like Top Gun. Like, I already know Top Gun Maverick, I'm going to have many of those moments during that. I'll probably be feel not seasick, air sick or whatever you call it from that. But I've been looking forward to that, and so I'm so disappointed that things keep getting pushed back. But that's why I personally am hoping everyone gets vaccinated, and we get through this pandemic, and we can keep our restaurants open, we can keep these theaters open, and we can actually pack them, and we can have not just for the big tentpole blockbusters, but for those smaller films. And if one thing, you may or may not agree with this, but I mean, I don't know your opinion on it, but I've seen there are films that probably wouldn't have made to the box office that I've seen at drive-ins. I've had to drive a couple hours to a drive-in to go see films that were actually pretty good. Some smaller budget films that you might have been overshadowed any other year, and during 2020, that was an option that I found, and so I could still support the industry, and get my enjoyment, but as safely as possible for everyone. So, um, Yeah, it's. I hate to be in 2021 and still mentioning that word COVID, but it's still with us and it's still real, and people need to wise up, in my opinion. We got to get past this, but that's all I'm going to say about COVID on this one. I don't really like to bog it down, but we're going to take a break here, and then we're going to come back and talk about your fascinating career as the film and media coordinator for the city of Savannah. So we're here on Savannah on Film with Matthew Krueger, and he is not a member of Motley Crue, because you have a rocker's name. You realize that, right? Like Krueger or John Cougar Mellencamp. I don't know. I'm sure you've heard that before, but
I'm glad, and I hope I rock your program.
well, definitely. Alrighty, everybody, stick where you're at, and we're going to be right back after these few announcements here on WRUU 107.5 FM.
Are you hesitant about receiving the coronavirus vaccination? Contact your physician. It is estimated that 97% of all physicians have been vaccinated. What do they know that you don't know? Or talk to a friend or relative who has been vaccinated and find out why they have taken it. For more information, contact www.cdc.gov.
Need a vaccine? You can visit vaccines.gov or text your zip code to 438827 to find a vaccination site near you. For the information in Spanish, text vacuna 822862. Again, if you need a vaccine, you can visit vaccines.gov or text your zip code to 438829 to find a vaccine site in your area. For information in Spanish, text vacuna 822862. Disasters don't stop even during a pandemic. The Red Cross is here to help when disasters strike. They respond to a disaster every 8 minutes. They help people to prepare for disasters, and they help prevent disasters such as home fires. The Red Cross saves lives by providing blood. And now, free COVID-19 antibody testing is available when donating blood with the Red Cross. More information about Red Cross services and donating blood can be found at www.redcross.org.
To be able to go back to the movies.
Introduce my family to my new girlfriend.
For my husband, who's been a chronic asthmatic his whole life.
So I can visit friends in a different state.
So I can take my granddaughter out to the park again.
So that I can hug my 85-year-old grandma again.
We each have our own reason for why we're getting vaccinated against COVID-19. What will yours be? Visit getvaccineanswers.org for information on the COVID-19 vaccines. It's up to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
WRUU brings you the most diverse and passionate local radio programming on the air in Savannah. This all-volunteer and nonprofit community radio station accepts no money from any form of government. Our diversity and independence is made possible only through the generous financial support of listeners like you. We rely on your annual and ongoing monthly contributions to cover the many costs associated with bringing you our broadcast and web programming. If you are a contributor, thank you. If you're not yet a contributor, please show your appreciation of the role WRUU plays in your life by becoming a contributor in any amount. You can donate quickly and easily by credit card or check. Just find the donate and subscribe links at wruu.org. Thanks for listening to and supporting WRUU.
You're listening to WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
And we are back here on Savannah on Film. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, along with the fascinating, wonderful, intelligent, and I already said fascinating. I've run out of adjectives or whatever. Matthew Krueger, he's joining us here today. Welcome back again, Matthew.
Thank you, Ed.
And we're going to talk a little bit about, I guess it's your day job, if we call it that, or your other position. As in the film and media division, you are the film and media coordinator at the city of Savannah. So what is that for the uninitiated? What does that entail? What is your, like?
So I have to be very careful about what I share here.
Right,
So
right. Only what you can.
a drop in the bucket. In order to shoot in the city of Savannah, you have to have a permit. So I am the city's permitting office. I'm here to just make sure whatever services you need and anything like that is handled appropriately and expeditiously with great communication to the community. So that's kind of how I could summarize all that. When I was finishing up SCAD, I interned, or I was the administrative assistant for the Regional Film Commission, and it used to be all one and the same. So I've had some experience with writing permits for a little while in there after I worked on Baywatch, and was hired by SCAD as a career advisor, and then promoted to their Atlanta institution as an industry and alumni engagement manager. And whenever that part of the ride was closing, I hooked up with the movie that was filming in Savannah. So I came back from Atlanta to Savannah. I was on set for a couple of weeks prepping, art department, just getting ready to shoot a little movie. And a friend told me, Parker Beck, she was like, "Hey Matt, the job that you used to do at the film office, it's open again. Are you interested?" Well, I just immediately went and talked to the folks here and said, "Hey, I hear you're going to be looking for somebody. How desperate and crazy are you?" And here I am. So I really can't go into too many details, but it's an exciting position that it's I've got a lot of energy. So say you've got a lot of energy and you like to work on a lot of shows at once. I think it's a very unique way to feel a lot like a filmmaker a lot of the time, but also have the stability of a 9 to 5, if you will, just knowing that, even when that show ends, you're still going to have something to do for the city.
Okay. Good answer. Survey says. Yeah. So yeah, you make those. You. It's a lot of local relations, as you said. And you're making connections with people in the industry, and it's not just like film permits, because if like someone is going, if they need a film permit, they would go to the regional film commission, correct?
And Savannah Regional Film Commission, does a million things extremely well. But if you really want to understand the incentives for shooting in Savannah, that's a great place to go and have that conversation. So definitely, if you're thinking about shooting in Savannah, that would be my first call.
Yeah, and you can, their website's filmsavannah.org, and they do a lot to keep our keep these productions coming this way, and helping keep those incentives and everything. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and there's a lot more than the film commission that does that, and so it's good to have that bit of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but to have that is a good thing. Now we have, and you may or may not be able to speak to this, but it's been in the news that we've got another possible studio coming to Savannah, and we always talk on this show, Savannah on Film, since we've been doing this show, a big part of it is talking about infrastructure and building that Savannah infrastructure. Not everything is coming out of LA and just, they're setting up to get the tax incentives in Savannah, which a lot of films do, but yet, there's a lot of stuff that's invoiced and shipped, out of state, unfortunately. And getting a soundstage and stuff like that will be good. I know SCAD's got their stuff coming along with that. And on the issue of infrastructure, do you have any thoughts about or opinions about
Absolutely
where we stand and where we're going?
And so the person who's heading up Cat 5 Studios, so this is away from city business, so I can open up my repertoire of information.
Okay.
The gentleman who's going to be operating that, his name is David Patterson, and he's been a friend of mine for a good 10 years now. He's an incredible guy, so talented family. He was a first responder in New York for 911. So I mean, he's really a true community-minded person. I have a lot of respect for David. Mm-hmm. In the last 10 years, the region has had a lot of opportunities to have studios. This fizzled, that got robbed. A lot of different things have happened. So I think many of us have a wait and see approach. With David, he started sharing plans for Cat 5 with me a while ago, and so we've had some conversations and shared some information and ideas and that kind of stuff. Without a doubt, the missing link for Savannah to really take a different piece, definitely an upgrade, is our studio situation. And if he can even accomplish a third of what he hopes to with that facility, the impact it will have to our region with shows staying. And that's the biggest thing that happens now. It's rare that we have a Baywatch. It's rare that we have a Lady and the Tramp. It's rare that we have these, large blockbuster shows that really stay here and do the whole do here. And I think that's where we've been missing, that third heat, if you will, and that's the studio. So I'm definitely very optimistic. David is a very driven, very talented guy, and I know he's got a couple of very sharp people that he's working with to really get it moving. If the Savannah area gets a third of what he's proposing, it will absolutely change the landscape of filmmaking in Savannah, because now we might have three to five movies stay here concurrently for their entire run of show, and that's a whole different type of impact versus what we've typically experienced.
And we don't need these productions going to Atlanta. We need to be able to compete on a level with Atlanta. Atlanta has a lot of that infrastructure. And so, yes, if these studios come along and we can get this infrastructure in place, it can only benefit the city and as a whole. And the tourism dollars, it's like people that still at this point in 2021 don't understand the slight inconveniences of a film, filming in your neighborhood, which is all well planned out by every production. But some may complain, oh, it's an inconvenience, but yeah, it's a temporary inconvenience when you look at the overall that it's doing for your neighborhood, for your city, and the restaurants, the hotel chains. My gosh, you look at a list of everyone that benefits.
I look at Forrest Gump, and I wonder how many visitors every year still come to Savannah just because of that one movie. I've spoken to so many people over decades now. As a kid, one of the last movies I watched get filmed was Forrest Gump. And that's when the lights were going off, like, I have to get in this world. But I don't know. I mean, what, 50,000 people a year visit Savannah just because they know it from there? I mean, over what, 25-year time span, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of people coming just from that one, postcard.
We remember the book, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and there's people that still come and do the tours and stuff like that. There's tour companies. There's so many industries that are impacted by the influx of people, what they see on screen. And then they come to Savannah. A lot of times stuff is, filmed in a studio, or it's filmed with a backdrop and, special effects. But then when you see a lot of films in Savannah, there is some of that, but there is just the natural beauty that we have everything but the mountains, pretty much here in Savannah, barring a volcanic eruption or Atlantis rising. I don't know. But Savannah's just got that natural beauty. It's just such a beautiful backdrop to even a period film, especially, and we're really blessed with that here. And having the infrastructure is so vital to get us to that next level. And taking it a step further with this extra studio space, what SCAD's doing, what Cat 5 is proposing to do, maybe we'll see more from independent filmmakers on a higher level, given, these sound stages and infrastructure. Maybe that will filter down. Hopefully it does. And because I like to say that only Nirvana could come from Seattle. So to use a music euphemism there, but I want to say that only Savannah films can come from Savannah. It's like building that local base of people, and not just putting PAs out in there, which is not to demean that a lot of us start that way, and that's fine. But really getting some of those key roles in for local films and seeing the vision of it, and somebody's finally putting skin in the game, as they say. Getting the studios here, getting the infrastructure. So all power to those that are doing that behind the scenes, because a lot happens behind the scenes, and that the public doesn't see. So to everybody who's making it happen and getting us a step closer to realizing those infrastructure dreams or realities, kudos to you, and keep doing it. And you can come on the show here and talk about it if you'd like to, because we're always about that. And where do you think of the industry locally as a whole, the entire industry? Where do you feel it's heading? What are your thoughts about that?
So I've worked in Georgia filmmaking for 20 some years now. And so I can remember late 90s, we had another nice incentive push. Movies were flocking. I was working on show after show. I questioned, do I even need to graduate from undergrad? Like I'm already doing everything I want to do. New legislature, there goes the incentives. And then you have to either move, travel, as film is a highly migratory capacity, or you have to do something different for a little while. And so I did a little bit of both. As far as the future, if we can keep the state level incentives we have, we will remain highly competitive to anyone else out there. City of Savannah currently also has some additional incentives. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to have those, but I'm grateful. My thoughts would be, as long as we keep our incentives robust, we keep it simple, easy to shoot here, still the cost of housing in Atlanta is still much less than LA. Then obviously the cost in Savannah is way more favorable. I think it's just going to be a matter of how we present our state. And then I think that's, so much can impact, if a film comes to your city or not.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So many things can happen. And so it's just a matter of how do you continue to keep the welcome mat that is your production community out there in a way where people want to continue to work with you. So, it's a matter of being hospitable. It's a matter of having the infrastructure. It's a matter of, being a good backdrop, if you will. And Savannah has so much charm and so much beauty. What's exciting for me is, it's very easy to see Savannah like as a beach or a marsh or as a historic something. But the more and more I've worked in filmmaking, it's neat. Like when you point the camera in a particular direction, you can also pull out ranch-style homes from the 1950s. And if you angle it over here, you've got some 1920s prairie-style homes over here where it's really easy to make Savannah a lot of different locations, or at least the Savannah region. And that's exciting. We are not a one-trick pony when it comes to our architecture and our locales. And I think that will give us a lot of room to grow in the future, particularly with infrastructure.
That's beautifully said, and I agree with you on that, because I've always wondered, the little bit of time I've been in the industry, several years, that eventually are we going to see, you can watch enough films and eventually are we going to see, how many times are we going to see the Forsyth Fountain, how many times are we going to see Little Tybee, how many times we're going to see, I can count some films where we've seen that, how much we're going to see Isle of Hope.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen the 1974 Burt Reynolds, The Longest Yard?
I did. And what year was that? 74?
74.
I was 4 years old. So, but that was Burt Reynolds. So yeah, I know in the 70s you watched Burt Reynolds. It was kind of like, something you had to do. It was bigger than one of the biggest stars. So yeah, I did see it, but it's been a while. Yes.
Somewhere in the last year, a friend sent me a clip. And so if you've seen even the Adam Sandler version, he starts out in a car chase scene. He's, probably drinking, and he's, in a fast car doing stupid things. Well, the beginning of The Longest Yard starts out in Savannah. And so the whole car chase is all in downtown. They head to Forsyth Park, and he's got like a Ferrari, and he's doing laps around the Forsyth Fountain. I mean, stuff that could never happen now. But we talk about magic. And so it's just been interesting to even see like the growth of Savannah, where, in the 70s, I mean, I don't think there was almost anything going on in the city. So
Burt Reynolds used to fly. There used to be a small little airfield, and he'd fly his little Piper Cub plane into that. It was in where the school is on Whitmarsh Island and all that. And there used to be an airfield there, just a small little airfield. And this might have been when he was filming. I don't know if it was Gator, if he filmed around here, or that was around 79, 80, or maybe sooner than that.
I think Gator was 76. I've got a lot of Burt Reynolds stuck up here.
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of did.
White Lightning was 73. I think Gator was 76. I might be wrong, but I probably am right.
but it's kind of like, the 80s equivalent would be Knight Rider for me, or Dukes of Hazzard. See, it was all about the car, or Airwolf was about the airplane. It's like,
Into my
so
childhood,
it's like Smokey and the Bandit. That was about the car. And the Cannonball Run films. I could go on and on. Those were hilarious. Wow, I didn't think we talk about Burt Reynolds on this. That is not in my notes anywhere, but that's
talk about childhood from here. You brought in Burt Reynolds. I'm comfortable, man. Let's go.
let's go. Yeah. And but yeah, there's it's interesting to see how the genres of film, the different types of films that have been filmed here. Like we mentioned, Gifted. That was just a really beautiful film, and totally different film. And there's so many other performances. We always forget about Glory, which is one of the best films that ever made in out of Savannah.
Glory came out in '89, and so I can remember when it got to first, it was the first rated R movie my mom ever took me to.
Wow.
So I'm 10 or 11 years old, and I can remember me and my old friend Eric Maherl, we all three went and saw it, and it just blew my mind. I mean, it absolutely just blew my mind. So I can even remember by 1990, it was coming out on VHS. That's a big cassette tape for anybody who's
Yeah.
It's big old.
Those things are retros. They're like, I don't think they'll come back like albums have come back. My LPs, I wish I would never got rid of.
The longest time though, when Glory was leaving the VHS stores as a new release, I had this huge triptych cardboard promotional piece of Glory, and so I had that in my room as a kid forever. And so it definitely is a very special movie for me, and on so many levels, and it's such a beautiful story, and definitely Savannah in a very kind of transitional part of its existence. It's by '89, Savannah was starting to have some major uptick.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of seasons, if you want to call it that, different through the decades of Savannah film. We did an episode a while back, I don't remember which one, but where we traced the entire history of the film industry. You can find it on our YouTube channel, Savannah on Film, but from the very first film filmed until, I guess this was about a year ago we did the show, so it's about a year ago. There's been a lot of productions. What are some of the I hate to use this word, but pitfalls of the film industry that you've come across in your many years of being in the industry?
Well, that's a very large question, so let me try to break it down.
Okay.
Well, what I want to have is teachable lessons out there. If I was going to coach a young PA, it would be to literally have, a notebook around your neck with a pen attached to it. And the reason I say that is because your job then as a PA is literally to be present, to take notes, and let people see that you are there to give to the show. So, again, I'm sorry, take me back to your initial question because this was going to go somewhere.
What were kind of the pitfalls? Like if you could do it again, what would be a pitfall that you would avoid?
And so the reason I brought up the notebook, I think when I started, I was coming from the acting side into the production side. And so I think somewhere in your head, you've got this glamorous image of what, filmmaking is. And in the end, it's you being on the back end of a truck for 16 hours that day. And that is the reality of getting it made.
Right.
And so I think really understanding the amount of business that film is, it can be very cold. One of the words that I wrote down of things that I wanted to talk to you about was the word failure. And I think this is a good time to interject that because
Sure.
I think as a young person in film, anytime I didn't get a part, anytime I didn't get the PA job, anytime I didn't get the opportunity to work with somebody who was a hero of mine, either I took it personally or I didn't have the thick skin to really know how to process, this emotional kind of feeling of I didn't get what I hoped to get. So, really the pitfalls would be, know that the machine that you're going into, and I have this couple of sayings that, when you walk into the film machine, you walk in, you have some extra parts, some extra pieces on you. And if you survive film, it's all streamlined because film kind of cuts off the parts of you that aren't needed. That's a personal opinion. I've also come to the conclusion that film is what you like life is what you allow in the frame. And so, when we're talking about pitfalls, I started as a kid. I actually lied about my age twice to get my first two feature film jobs, not because I was bright and not because it was the right thing to do, but because I was hungry. And so to address pitfalls, that takes me to the word hunger. The thing I would, encourage people to do is to figure out, how do you keep that fire in your belly hot, and how do you avoid getting into the pitfalls of, ego? And I think that would be one of the biggest things that I've seen cripple people is, they don't realize where their ego is, and it may not be in a healthy state. So if you want to survive yourself in film, you're going to get humbled. Your ego is going to have to get chopped in half. What you imagined it being and what it truly is may not be the same thing. So I encourage most people to really start as an extra on a couple of shows and just see what the hours make you feel like, to see, what the conditions make you feel like. You might have a set where, you're out in a field all day and it's 110 degrees. I can remember for some filmmakers' names who I won't mention, in July, they had me in a parking lot in an insulated jacket and a wig. And I thought I was going to pass out in 10 minutes and I wasn't being very well tended to. So the pitfalls would be, understand that it can be a very vicious industry at times. And that's just the reality of anything where there's a lot of money and just a little bit of time. And so you really have to have like an attitude where you want to evolve, and one where you want to rapidly heal. If you're, if something emotional, has been triggered, you can't take it personally. And I think that was one of the biggest lessons I had to learn early on, was it's not personal.
That sounds like a good way to kind of end the show here. Some really good advice. If people are looking to find you on Instagram, they can find you at Matthew Krueger Photography. That's Matthew _Krueger, KRUEGER _photography. And of course you're on IMDb if they want to get a hold of you. And you work as the film and media coordinator at the City of Savannah government. So thank you for the job you're doing there. There's so much more we can continue with, but unfortunately we're out of time. So thank you, Matthew Krueger, for joining me today. I really appreciate you being on this episode of Savannah on Film.
Ed, thank you so much for your time. It was really exciting to get to know you a little bit better and be on your show. Thank you.
And we'll talk again off air. So, so Matthew has a lot of expertise, a lot of years in the business, and I think we covered a lot of stuff, a lot of very important information, some very good advice for those that are up and coming in the industry. And that's a wrap. So this is a wrap for this show. So thank you, Matthew.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, take care, everybody. You have been listening to another episode of Savannah on Film, where we give a voice to the Savannah film community. Please like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. This program was originally broadcast on 107.5 FM in Savannah, Georgia, and worldwide on www.wruu.org. Join us next time for more intriguing insights into the vibrant Savannah film community here at Savannah on Film.